has a mystic aspect, and I do appreciate that. So we were talking about. I felt that the Ozark, every time I go there, and I actually took a vacation with my family there. To me, it was a cross between a tropical paradise and a mystic land. In fact, one of my favorite memories is we're in the Midwest, Wisconsin, and we were driving down the Ozark area, and we saw oh, what are those hard animals called?
Uh,
Armadillos.
Armadillos.
yeah,
We saw
yeah.
armadillo, and we're used to seeing like squirrels and stuff on the side of the road. But there was armadillos, and it shocked me. Like there's an armadillo. I loved it, But it's a beautiful area. But continue. You're talking about the courts and the feeling and
Well, it
earthworms that you're gonna try
is.
to get me that glow.
She's
It's
gonna mail to you.
right. No, it is known as the inland sea because there's enough water here that it's not all just apparent. It's not all just rivers and lakes. There's literally springs everywhere. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
There is.
And so there's a whole world under this that is still the ocean. You know what I mean? Like this was the first part to have come out of whenever we got pushed up was the Ozarks and Ouachita because they
Right.
kind of crashed up into each other, and so everything else was still water around it. And so first alive came up from places like that out of caves, right? So it's like Avatar kind of in the beginning because the humans were then you get into the Hyperborean age and all of that, right? Like the veil drops and then we have to start over and whatever until we got more dense like we are right now. But you got that energy is not that far away because you've still got salamanders and you've still got
Right.
um, fish and different things that we don't even know. We don't even know what all's down there. And the lost rivers, we call them the lost rivers because they keep testing these waters that are in some of the caves that are more accessible, and they'll put dye in them and stuff to see where it goes or comes out at, and it's not coming out anywhere, you know. The third largest spring in I think the nation and maybe the 10th in the world is in Mammoth Spring, and I'm right by that. And so we have a river that we play in that comes out of that spring. And so what you'll see is that is a huge portal. You've got ancient water that nobody knows where it's coming from really,
Hmm.
juicing up out of the ground like just nonstop, and it really is beautiful. But the energy around something like that, not with people not living in like the way the natives, if they went to the waterfall, they brought it a gift, or burned some sage or
Right.
just said a prayer there or whatever. And
Right.
we've lost that relationship with the land. And so it's going to distort people instead of help them if they try to live right around it because they're not living consciously around it.
I love that. I love that. So, when was your first experience with the rhythm of land, or um, past that, the paranormal?
Well, I mean, the paranormal stuff, when I was little, I had a great aunt die and leave me and my mom her house. And so I grew up in a house where there was a lot of just activity, and it was just, like if something, whenever you see something, no, it was just, oh, that's Aunt Sue. Like, from the time I was a little kid, it was not really anything to be scared of, and
Right.
it wasn't really anything that was talked about, set apart, that like everybody wasn't just having these situations happen, you know. So there wasn't really ever a time whenever I was not that was just such a part of my integrated world always, to be like, oh, the spirit here. My mom very much speaks like that. Oh, the energy here, you know what I mean? We need to get out of here because, so all of it, like, is such an integrated part of who I am. I think that I don't.
I love that. That's very cool. That's very cool. So, can you talk to us about some of the paranormal experiences you've had when it comes to the energies that you're feeling in some things that you came in contact with?
Well, there is an area that is here. It's on a bluff,
Hmm.
and it's like this old resort that's got it's still kind of there, but I don't know if anyone uses it. And but back in the day, that was like where like the mafia and the mobsters and everybody was kind of coming through there and stuff. And you can feel that this bluff is holding some energy that feels different. And people don't go up there, they're like, oh, it's haunted and all, like, I mean, people are really just, because it really does feel like something is there, not anything you can touch or see necessarily,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? But it's a feeling that kind of pushes people away almost. We're in a little resort retirement town where most people have got ring cameras and like see all these lights and all
Right.
this stuff. And up on this hill, I don't think they have any of that, and nobody messes with it. And I mean, that's saying a lot if they haven't taken the air conditioners regularly. You know what I
Right.
Yes.
mean? So there's that. So where we hang out on the river in like a lagoon, like a little waterfall area, and it is on the confluence. So you've got that water coming out of the spring on one side, and then you've got the water that is runoff from another river on the other side. And a lot of people do kind of drown up in that area because that water is so volatile that it's creating sinkholes all the time, right? And so that's where we play. And so the thing is though is that right there is where I really started, I guess, just really, I mean, year after year, going out there every day after work or just any time we have free time. I'd go out there and paint or read, and my husband would fish. And that's whenever just getting really quiet and the water, it's helping your nervous center
Right.
hit that point
Hmm.
that, so if your nervous system is that's how you're going to also see something, is if your own nervous system is at a place where it can meet something at a different frequency.
I love that.
Mhm.
You have wonderful energy. Raven, what do you think of all that? That's kind of cool, huh?
That is very interesting. And I was really curious about what your thoughts were. I know we had talked about like the lime and the water and all of those things, and we talk in the paranormal field about, especially Gabriel.
The
But we
elemental.
believe that
Yeah, the
the
elements.
elements, like, and
Yeah.
how that kind of, I guess, that traps energy but holds energy, right? Can you explain a little bit about how that works, or like
Yeah.
why that could be a possibility, that, why there are spirits because of those kinds of things?
Right. Okay. So you only see 3%, of the spectrum of anything going on at
Right.
any time anyway. And that is based on your spiritual eye, which is like your pineal gland and how open it is at any time or whatever, because that's where you're going to see things too, is it's got to process through right there. So a lot of different things need to line up for you to have a supernatural experience, right? Quite a lot of things need to really line up. And some people, their body naturally taps into it. You know what I mean? It's their nervous system is kind of wired to pick up on everything. But then you still have to be in a place like what you're saying that's holding it. So when you go into a house, if so, like high emotion, like if you were being murdered and you're screaming and being tortured and whatever, right? So that emotion is energy in motion, and it's getting trapped and it can fill the room up with it, right? Now, the actual person that got murdered, it doesn't mean that they're there. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're left there. But the residue was so strong from the central pedal, which is the manifested portal. So as they were trying to leave their body, if they had all of this distorted stuff going on, then they were unable to take the entirety of their aura through the death process, okay? And therefore fragments have remained in there. And the thing is you're not gonna. Nobody's ever like, I was walking yesterday and I saw a ghost dinosaur. You know what I mean? And the reason, right? And the
That's so
reason
true.
why, yeah, The reason why is because chances are that fragments of you keep picking up other fragments, even if you don't understand that. Like maybe you went on a vacation with your grandparents when you were 7 to this place where you had a fragment. You know what I mean? And you don't like you go. It felt like deja vu for a
I
second.
was just gonna say that seems like deja vu, doesn't it? That you're almost like explaining what deja vu could mean.
Right? Right there, you picked your fragment up and you never thought about it again. So that's why if you're going to see ghosts, there might be a time limit on it. And even if someone's telling you something over and over again, and you've got this ghost in your house and you're communicating with it, you may only be communicating with a fragment of it that was left behind. And so it doesn't, because energy in motion is how you would do magic, right? Is you would learn to harness the electromagnetic field around you. And to do that, for you to see entities or anything, for that to all line up or whatever, there's kind of like a lot of things that have to line up. But the room itself, if a lot of energy was left in there, when you walk in there, you may see glimpses, but you're not always going to see it with this eye, right? You're going to see it with this eye, and that's kind of a different sight. And people sometimes have Hollywood expectations of what they're going to see, you know?
We call that the
So
Zach
touching.
Bagan of it all. Yeah.
Right.
We totally call it the Zach Bagans of it all.
And I actually really like your theory. So we
No,
last
it's
week
really
we did
good.
a show about every time somebody would ask a spirit, a ghost, what's it like to be dead? They could never answer that. And by what you just said, would maybe make sense because that element isn't there, or just the
Right.
certain pieces of it. So they're not able
Right.
to
There he
answer that
is.
because the whole element isn't there. So I actually really like that theory. That's pretty good.
Well, think
I was
about
thinking the same thing. I was
think
thinking the
about
same thing, Gabriel.
think about in
Sorry.
the movie Doctor Sleep, okay?
Right.
Whenever before for them to live forever, they've got to torture this little kid and pull all of her essence out, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what they're living off of, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
is what's being left behind. All of it can't be left behind, right? And the reason for people to start to understand how to handle aura hygiene and to take care of their aura, and that means, for no other reason, like taking care of your aura is that you're not going to do something bad even though you could, and no one would know, because you want to keep your aura so good that whenever you pass through the death process the next time, that you can take the level of consciousness with you that you achieved here.
I like that. So
That's very
in that
interesting.
theory, how do you explain demonology?
So a demon, if you go all the way back, is just the word for it's angel and demon meant the same thing. So the actual word for demon is just the daemon, and so this goes back to the Baal, the Ka, and the Ankh in the Egyptian with soul technology. And so what you have there is there's the part of you that's in your body, there's the part of you that is continuous. It's the trinity of the soul, basically. There's the
Yeah.
part of you that is continuous, and then there's the part of you that is helping you here when you're talking to yourself, and then there's the higher soul, which is the part that is even up above that. And that part is actually too big and too much energy to all fit into the body, right? So whenever you meet that, in Carl Jung's terms, you meet the Ka. And whenever you meet the Ka, he's kind of like your guardian angel. In Islam, they call it a jinn. Throughout the originally, it could be good or bad. Like your angel doesn't have to be like a good angel. Like that angel could be your like mafia outlaw grandpa, and he's giving you bad advice, or whatever, like whatever. But the thing is that somewhere where they translated it to be a daemon is really just a misuse of the term altogether.
So
It is a misunderstood evil, right? Because evil is just absence of light, and so um, light always outweighs evil, but when people take so many wrong turns, right, they can't see the light anymore.
So it's a luck of the draw. Sometimes you get a bright angel, and sometimes you get a dark angel.
Right?
Well,
You're
those
right.
odds kind of suck, I think.
And I
To say,
mean, my,
how did you
but
know about my uncle, Angelia?
Mm.
right. I mean, because I mean, like, but the same, but from now, from like our very literal. So what's happened is they took all things feminine has been out of the culture, arts, all these things, right? So if you couldn't prove it with math, then it didn't exist. They weren't studying demons or anything because they took ether out too. So like we've been living in this false science of where the smallest thing is an atom and that's not true. You know what I mean? So anything that was outside of that became scary, right? Because you fear what you don't understand, and that's where the superstitions grow up. And so they're like, it's a demon. But the thing is like if you think you have a guardian angel, it's the exact same thing
I
in
believe human nature
demonology,
is to fear what you can't control.
right?
So
It's
by theory, what you just said does make sense. Would you agree with that, Raven? As you sit there
I
looking,
think so too.
right?
No, I think this all makes a lot of sense. You're onto some very interesting. These are very interesting theories, and I think that they're some things that we have not heard before, and I really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
You're bringing up some stuff that are like, whoa, hold on.
Well, we always
right,
We
and
enjoy
know,
different
I get
perspectives.
it now.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love it.
right. Thank you. And I mean, these are weird subjects that I don't get to just express a whole lot, and I mainly make little reels. I teach classes and stuff too. So,
So
um,
you are very tuned into rhythms and energy. Are you able to cleanse things as well because you do have a light about you? Are you able to go in and remove all the garbage, if you will?
yes. And so, I have been doing energy work since I was, I mean, pretty young, and so I can do like energy cleanses, and I can do, go to people's land and go houses and everything, and cleanse it out. And here's the thing, to be able to do that though, that is heavy work, right? Like
Mm.
I'm kind of lazy, right? I'm not trying to take all your shit on. You know what I
I love
mean?
it.
Like I mean, at this age, like if you've gathered a bunch of bullshit, that doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? Like you need it cleaned off,
Right.
because that's just how it is. But the thing is, though, is that I stay cleansed by living in the Ozarks, right? I
Hmm.
play in the river from a spring with water that's millions of years old to keep my own electromagnetic energy powerful enough to borrow it out for healing,
Mm.
you know?
Well, I definitely think more people can use positively in their life. I'd be happy to play in any kind of water that would, you know, bring me happiness. Why not? I love it.
And that's the water
Rejuvenate
over
the
there.
energy. I
Yeah.
like it.
Well, and all of it's just all energy, right? And like
Right.
whenever people think about these supernatural experiences, most of the time their their expectation is not what really going to happen, you may anything's possible, but I mean a lot of times it's going to be like a feeling, you know.
Hmm.
So I'm very like visual. So like I see like pictures and everything with all of it, but I don't see it with these eyes.
Right. Your third eye. Yep.
Right.
I love that.
I want to pop in. You said something earlier, and you just kind of brought it up again about how like you sense it, and we Gabriel and I have talked about this before about how you kind of sense things in the paranormal before you even have a
Right.
cat
Hmm.
ball or whatever. Most of
Right.
these paranormal investigators out here are using. All that to be said, like you said something about like headaches or things like that, which is really interesting. I know Gabriel, when something is going on, he gets kind of a sense I get a completely different sense. Like I might get like a headache just on the side of my head, or my eyes are like blurry, which isn't unusual for me. But all of those things, like what is that? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so here's the thing, like, and this is where astrology gets fun, right? Because in the astrology, I can see where your sensitivities are, right? Based on just the connection of how you're pulling in information. So some people might be super intuitive where they feel everything, right?
Hmm.
And then some people, it may be more like a download where they just know something all of a something. Some people may hear it. There's all these different little things, and it's going to show up in your astrology chart. And so I think that for one thing is you're made to receive this kind of information in specific ways differently. And each person has kind of their own little mixture of how that's going to look to them. Um, the pineal gland has got to be open, right? Because without that, you do not have any ability to see something in a different consciousness, like frequency, kind of, but all of this, the waves of your body, you need to be like in like theta or delta, like, so your whole system needs to be in a very specific wave. I mean, the things that line up for you to have a supernatural experience are not just, I mean, they're synced up, you know.
I love
um
that. So I've
I,
experienced a lot of paranormal stuff before where I explained on the show. I walked out of a boat once, right? I used to live in a boat in Minnesota all year round, actually, and it was winter.
nice.
Everything was frozen. I stepped out of the boat, and I was getting ready to go to work, and I was walking my car, and all of a sudden I heard, and there was not a whole lot of boats that were occupied in the middle of winter, and I heard, I think you can hear us. And I turned around, and it was crystal clear because I heard a noise, and I stopped, and I was kind of like listening, and for a moment, the cold chill of the Minnesota Arctic, all of a sudden didn't really get that cold. It was warm. It was like I was in a different time. So, how would you explain that when it comes to rhythm energy?
Okay, so first of all, you were on water,
Yes,
okay? And so that's conductive, just right there.
absolutely.
And so whatever is going on in, like, you're in a mellow thing, you're living in a house, you're on a houseboat on this lake. There's no humans around. You don't have a
Right.
lot of technology around. There's like that stillness, right? Which means that your nervous system is going into a relaxed, sensitive place, you know. And so over the water, I mean, it could be just spirits, like, because there could be a whole world that is literally actively going on around you
Oh,
right now.
absolutely. Parallel
Right.
universes, absolutely.
Right. And every now and then, you line up to it, and you
We
just
call
pick up.
that thinning of the veil.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yeah, we've
And the
heard about.
reason, I mean, and water is perfect, right?
Right.
But also being alone, there not being anyone else's energy. Because when we're in the middle of a whole bunch of people, we're
Right.
kind of getting this like mixed soup of
It
energy.
muffles a lot of other energy because there's so
Yeah.
much of other people's energy.
Right.
Yeah, right. I get it. I like it, Angelina. I really do. We speak the same language. You just are more eloquent at it. Thank you.
Well, I think that there's going to be a lot more coming, because what is happening is now people are coming out of the superstition of things, right? Like when I first did a ghost tour in my little town a few years ago, I had went around and asked all the different people, like, is your little business haunted? Do you have a haunted story? And all this. And everybody was like, no, no, no. And I'm like, okay, so what I came out of that thinking was they do not understand if it is, right? Because they're thinking Hollywood movie haunted. But
Right.
it could
Hmm.
be you moved into a house and you got really sick, right? And they're testing you for everything, and you're coming back and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's in your head. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There could be leftover energy from something which could have just been who knows what, you know what I mean? Anything. And that residue is kind of just bled into like the walls and stuff, right? And nobody's ever been aware enough of it yet to just clean it out, right? Because most
Love it.
people are like, oh, I don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah. How do you clean it out? You know what I mean? Like I just moved into a new place not too long ago. Like how it, and this is like 100-year-old place that I'm living in. So how would I, you know,
So,
clean this space out?
so first of
She needs
all,
it.
right. So
And
here's
I
what
might.
I would get like some like a bell, and I would get some sage, obviously, maybe like some Palo Santo, get you a little herb thing and like a white candle. And I would go through and I would shake like a shaker or something and ring a bell like in every corner, right? Because energy stagnates. Okay.
Mm,
And so, like, if this is an old energy that's there that you're not really wanting to mess with you, then you need to get it stirred up, right? So you go through and move it with something and then take like whatever you want to use because it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things you could use for herbs. Herbs are your helpers, though. They want to help you. So whenever you go to do like the saging thing, though, the power in that is more about you. The power in
mm,
that is more about your intention. And so, if you're like, thank you for staying so long, right? It was great having you here, but I'm here. And so, like, you need to go. And basically just like a little kind of prayer of it. Like,
mhm,
you're not allowed here. Like, I don't want you here. So you can't be here. And then I would take something like the Palo Santo and do that behind probably, like because sage gets rid of everything, and you always want to open a
mhm.
window, and you take a feather and whatever, and basically you're pulling all of the elements though, but your intent is what makes it work.
I
Very
like that.
interesting.
I
Thank
do. I
you.
like that.
Thank you.
I've never went in anywhere and like I've, especially younger, would go specifically for this. I mean, we would take like LSD and go to the crescent, you know? So, I mean, like we were asking for it. And I've never felt like my energy could not easily be like, you know, you need to go.
So you
Mm-hmm.
just overpower the negative energy with your positive energy.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, right? Like, because I mean,
I like it.
and that's just awareness. You know what I mean? Like it's all like
Lactosm.
aware, right? Like if you just don't
Yeah.
know, then you're like, I don't know what's happening. A lot of times though, when people start getting really sick and people will have a divorce, right? Like let's say there was an awful fighting family that left all this residue of just anger and just terrible emotional residue, and then this cute little newlywed moves in. That energy, without any specific like ghost or anything, can energetically do something even to the couple.
Sure.
And,
Interesting.
and if you're going somewhere where people knew how to mess with energy, okay, because people want to think magic isn't real. It's absolutely real, right? Like there's people doing stuff, there's people that know more about soul technology and all of that than you think, right? And so like if somebody had been purposely doing some stuff, that can be felt and held somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. So we've been, I have a really good ruling theory. We've been to a lot of haunted locations, which I don't think started out haunted. I think it was brought there, manifested, if you will,
Right.
from other people's intentions, wanting to prove something and or see something, and they manifest something that stays there. They just haven't brought it back to them or was able to close it.
I agree. And a lot of people don't understand enough of what they're doing,
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They
and
don't even know to close it.
yeah, right. Like think
Like,
kids. Think even like whenever I was, I remember being like junior high age and people pulling out Ouija boards and stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
This is where we say sorry to my mom and dad. Sorry, mom and dad.
Right, right.
Every
This is why we had that
sorry,
demon
guys.
here. I thought
Right.
it was an
Yeah,
angel.
they now
Yeah,
say that they're
I
the
did
lucky
that.
haunted.
My
You know what
bad.
I'm saying?
I
Like,
love it.
sorry, sorry, that might have been me, like
Well,
20 years
Angelina,
ago.
where can people find you? You're such a fascinating soul. And you have workshops. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I have workshops. I'm on Facebook and I'm on TikTok under Angelia Herringer or the Ozark Mystic. But I have a website that is Angelia Ozark, or no, AngeliaOzarkMystic.com. And on there, I've got like classes and things, and I go live every week and talk about
I love that.
different things. And I have a brick and mortar. So in Highland, Arkansas, I have a brick and mortar where it's an apothecary, and
I
we've
love it.
got we do art classes and guided meditations, and I go around and I do folk stories. So like where we do fires, and I give you the Ozark stories.
I like
I
that.
love that so much. But we love the Ozarks, though. I mean, we've been there a couple times, like he was saying, and we love it there. So it's just a place with such history and magic at the same time. So
And
Well,
people
yeah.
were really afraid to talk about the magic because it is also the Bible Belt. You know what I mean?
right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so like there's some things you're allowed to talk about and there's some things you're not. You know, you're like the granny women. I mean, that's a very known thing when you get up in the hills, you know, but you weren't allowed to
Hmm.
really like discuss it, you know.
I
Sure.
love that.
Sure.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I apologize for the little glitch in the middle of the programming, but technology is what it is. So
Sorry.
there's something about conversations like tonight. They don't end when the microphone turns off. They stay with you. In the quiet moments, in the way you look at the sky a little differently, in the way you begin to notice the patterns that are around you. Angelina, thank you not just for your time, but for your perspective. I enjoyed it. And for reminding us that the unseen doesn't always have to be feared. Sometimes it's meant to be understood, like you have kind of clearly demonstrated tonight. And to those who are watching, listening, and walking this path with us, we appreciate you because Darkwoods Paranormal isn't just about what we discover, it's about what you begin to see. We enjoyed having you on. I want to thank everybody for being here. Stay aware, stay safe, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
You don't mind
Bye,
just hanging
y'all.
on a little bit, Angelina? We appreciate it.